Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of DGS. Right now we are about to answer who would be the one to tamper the crime scene. And they only put the only possible culprit besides Soseki is Patrick O'Malley. That person could only be Beat Officer Patrick O'Malley. There can be no other explanation.
What's this? This beat officer of the London police? Don't be ridiculous! Why would Pat do that? Pat is an ally of justice. He's a patrolman who strives to protect London's peace.
Lola-san. Pat-san asked you to go to the station and you left the crime scene, correct? That 15-minute gap is the only time it would have been possible for him to tamper with the crime scene.
That's a lie! Nonsense! I mean... Oh, that's right! The mustached Japanese man! He did it!
But in that case, Pat-san should have witnessed it. And with all due respect, you dropped the bouquet, Lola-sama, after the defendant had already fled the scene of the crime.
But...
So, you're done implicating the boarding house landlord couple, and now you've moved on to the beat officer of the London police, have you? However, you still lack one important thing necessary to make that accusation. You claim he altered the crime scene, but that is something that only someone who had something to hide in connection with the case would do.
That's right! That's right! Pat and I just happened to see the attack. So why would we have anything to hide?
What motive could he possibly have had to alter the crime scene? Until you can indicate that, your accusation is no proper accusation at all. Beat Officer Pat must have had a reason that he needed to tamper with the crime scene in this case. And that reason is the key to this whole case.
Naruhodo-sama, could it be that you figured it out? If your accusation of this London beat officer turns out to be false, it will cause critical damage to your position as defense attorney. Keeping that in mind, let us hear your answer.
Yes, Your Honor. The fact that Beat Officer Pat tried to hide by altering their crime scene was the reason that Beat Officer Pat tried to hide. Sorry, this text is weird. The reason why Pat tried to hide by altering the crime scene is, what is the reason? What is it? The place where the book had fallen, the place where the bouquet had fallen, the place where the victim was stabbed. Place where the victim was stabbed. Pat-san had to hide it at all cost. What in blazes?
The place where she was stabbed? What are you talking about? We've known that since the beginning. It was on the walkway along Briar Road, right? We saw it. Yes, right here. Everyone knows that.
You're right. That's what everyone thinks. But that's not actually where the victim was stabbed.
Huh? What? Just where is this trial headed?
In that case, Japanese boy, your next step is to indicate. According to your claim, where did the attack really happen that night? Next to the boarding house.
That's...
On the opposite side from the crime scene, you say?
What does this mean?
Pat is being really quiet over there. That's right. The book that flew out the window of Mr. Garredev's room plummeted straight down. The bouquet you dropped at the crime scene never moved. What moved was the scene of the crime itself.
What?
looks like you haven't heard the testimony leading up to now. These two witnesses clearly saw the moment of the attack.
That's right. I'm sure we saw it.
5 p.m. The sun had already set and London's famous fog had rolled in, obscuring the landscape. The location you two first hurried over to when you witnessed the attack was actually the Briar Road's Western Walkway.
No way! That can't be!
Pat-san asked you to go to the station and you left the scene. Then, in the 15 minutes it took you to return, he moved things around. The victim's body and the 4 books shown in this photo. He moved all of it to the Briar Road's Eastern Walkway.
What is this madness?
But Pat-san overlooked just one thing.
Overlooked?
You mean this bouquet? Yes, precisely.
Earlier, Prosecutor-sama, you said Earlier, Prosecutor-sama, you said this in regards to the bouquet. It was in an area that the gas lamp's light didn't reach, so it wasn't discovered until the following morning. It was dark, so it was overlooked.
That's why that bouquet was forgotten on Briar Road's Western Walkway, the real scene of the crime. That concludes my theory. What are your thoughts on the matter, Officer Patrick O'Malley?
Oh, I'm really sorry that I fell asleep again at such an important moment. But I haven't had a decent night's sleep in a month. Pat! It's all a lie, right? The things this attorney is saying. You worked hard for the sake of justice, and yet he... I had a dream. It was a really bad dream. That everything I did that night was discovered. But it looks like it wasn't a dream at all. What? What? Order! 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 What does this... What is the meaning? This is... Pat! Why would you... Moving a corpse? Isn't that a crime?
Look, the victim isn't dead, okay?
Officer, why would you? Why would an upstanding officer who works to serve the people of London? I can't tell you. What did you say? I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. I sully Scotland Yard's reputation.
There's only one thing I can think of. The reason that Pat-san had to move the crime scene on that night. Ludicrous. There's no way you could know that. What could a Japanese boy like you possibly understand about London police beat officers?
And yet, he's the one who took the time to seek out this shocking truth.
Ooh, burn!
The court sees value in listening to what such a person has to say. Defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
The court would like you to present evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. It has nothing to do with being English or Japanese or any of that. People tend to feel the same way about certain things. I feel like I understand what Pat-san was feeling.
What is the evidence that indicates the motivation behind Officer O'Malley's deed?
Where is his license? It's true. I am an outsider who only just arrived in this country from Japan. That's why today is my first time hearing about the London Police Patrol Officers. And how they have the proudest and yet harshest job on earth.
They must patrol the city in order to keep it safe and perform various tasks for the sake of the citizens' daily lives. Indeed, we entrust much responsibility every day to our young beat officers.
And to Pat-san, that day was special.
Special?
Naturally, it's this bouquet.
It was our first-year anniversary.
Pat-san put everything into preparing a special gift for that special day. The two of them headed out for their anniversary dinner, and that's when they had a fateful encounter on Briar Road. Amidst the lamplight and thin fog, they witnessed a figure suddenly collapse on the walkway. What must have been going through his head at that moment?
But on that day, I was determined to celebrate our anniversary. I'm always busy and have to leave her all alone, so I had to do this for my darling Lola.
This is the police license that Pat-san lent me. The rules for beat officers written in here contain the following statement. In case of a crime, officers of the beat they supervise must participate in the first response effort and aid the detectives.
Oh.
That's why, Pat-san. That's the reason you moved the crime scene, isn't it?
You see through everything, haven't you?
So that's it. Your beat would have been in charge of the investigation. That's right. In other words, this case's investigation, originally, should have been under the supervision of Pat-san's beat station.
Oh, then Officer O'Malley, you... At the time, was the first time I ever cursed God that I had managed to become a police officer as I'd always dreamed. Lola, stay close to me. The attacker might still be lurking around somewhere. When I first approached the scene of the crime, I unmistakably did so as a police officer. For the time being, I better notify the station right away. That's when it occurred to me where the victim had fallen and what that would mean. In case of a crime, officers of the beat they supervise must participate in the first response effort and aid the detectives. Why did this attack have to happen now? Why tonight of all nights? Why? As a police officer, I had to keep watch over the crime scene. That's why I asked Lola to go to the station and bring back some more officers. And then, as soon as I opened my mouth, I shouted something even I couldn't believe. This walkway is part of the other beat's territory, Lola. Go to the neighboring beat station. Turn right on Mesham Road.
Oh my god. This poor man. He just wanted to spend the evening with his lover. I feel for them, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. So very sorry. Pat-sama.
Oh, I'm getting teary too about this. I just had to. Go have dinner with Lola that night, no matter what.
Pat!
It's just for that one day. If a crime were discovered within the bounds of your beat, you'd become unable to celebrate your anniversary. And so, you chose to move the entire crime scene across Briar Road to the Eastern Walkway, which fell in the neighboring beat's territory.
To tell the truth, I was certain that the victim was dead.
What?
It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, if she weren't, my Pat would never have left her on the frozen walkway with that knife still stuck in her back.
I see. I'm sure he wouldn't have.
But I guess God managed to punish me in the end. Why did I have to? Go and forget to move the bouquet I'd given her. No, it's not your fault, Pat. It's mine. It's all because I dropped it somewhere that the lamplight didn't reach. I'm sorry, Pat.
By the way, Pat-san, the books you carried over to the opposite walkway, how many were there?
Huh? Oh, I'm pretty sure there were 4. The 3 that Soseki-sama dropped, and then the other was, of course, the one that fell from the garretive's 3rd floor window.
But why did you put that book into the victim's hand? The other 3 were just scattered around.
Huh? Well, that was already like that to begin with.
What do you mean, to begin with?
When we hurried over to the crime scene that night, the victim was clutching this book in her hand. That's why I moved her just like that, still holding the book.
The book in the victim's hand was this copy of The Adventure of the Lion's Mane?
Oh yes, no doubt about it.
I see. The 4th book. When the O'Malleys first rushed onto the scene, the victim was already holding this book.
This is a pretty straightforward case, is what I thought at the time. It was just the 2 of them at the scene of the crime. Lola saw it as well. No matter how you think about it, the attacker must have been the bloke who ran for it. That's why I thought that the location was ultimately trivial. I guess this is the end for me, isn't it? Oh!
Your Honor.
What is it, Lord Von Zeeks?
This concludes the cross-examination of these witnesses. You may stand down now, beat officer.
Sir! Mr. Prosecutor. Pat! My beloved Pat! What will happen to him?
You may return home for today. You will certainly receive further instructions from the yard later on.
I beg you, won't you please forgive him? Pat didn't do anything wrong. I always complain to Pat about how he doesn't come home enough. Never mind, Lola. Let's go home. Okay.
Officer O'Malley.
Yes, sir.
Surely this incident must have caused you to realize that when investigating a crime, there's no such thing as a trivial detail.
Yes.
Engrave that lesson upon your heart as vividly as possible. And ensure that you never make such a blunder at a crime scene again.
Again? Does that mean?
Hurry up and stand down. This trial still isn't over. Aww, Baroque has a heart.
Yes, sir.
Bless them.
A shocking truth has just become clear here. The scene of the crime was moved by a third party.
However, there remains some unchanged facts. The defendant, Natsumi, is still the only person who could have committed the crime. The only person. That's not quite true, is it? On top of learning where the real scene of the crime was, we also learned that there was one other person who could have stabbed the victim in the back.
With all due respect, is that not simply conjecture on your part, prosecutor? Lord Von Zeeks, is this true?
Very well. If you can provide a name, and if it's worth considering, the prosecution would agree to continue the trial.
Who is the other person who could have committed the crime?
I think we're gonna finally get her to the stand. Joan Garrett. The defense would once more like to request the right to cross-examine a new witness.
Once more?
The defense's legal aid has already suggested this once. In order to reveal the truth behind this case, Juror 4, Joan Garrett-san, is the one we need to cross-examine.
Huh? You mean me?
I believe that request was already overruled. But the circumstances have just changed. Mrs. Garrett, do you mind?
What is it?
When the attack occurred, you were fighting with your husband. And then, as a result of that fight, a fire was started. Mr. Garrett, in order to let out the smoke, opened the window facing the road.
So what if he did?
You threw this book at your husband, whom you had chased to the window side. That book hit the open, pushed-out window and plummeted straight down to the ground. And that was the true scene of the crime. We've proved as much just now.
Again, I say, so what?
At the time, you had apparently forgotten yourself in the midst of your rage. And when you got your hands on other nearby things, not only books, you threw those as well. Allow me to confirm this with you once more. This knife, the one used to stab the victim. Have you really not seen it before?
I have not. How could you possibly know whether I drew that at him or not? Besides, the prosecutor said, did he not? There's no need for a juror to testify.
But... I don't recall saying anything of the sort, Juror 4. Don't misunderstand. That goes for all you jurors. There's nothing special about you. If you recall having seen this knife before, you had better admit it truthfully.
But you could find a knife just like that one anywhere. Even in our house, there are several of them. Even if one of them were to have gone missing, how would I know?
What did you say?
Are you serious?
What's going on here? But think! It's only natural that I wouldn't want to believe it either, isn't it? To think that I could have wounded someone with my own hands!
Joan-sama.
So, yes, I'd prefer if you could show me some decisive evidence that that knife is really the one that I threw. I'm begging you. I need to know!
Well, what do you think, Naruhodo-sama? If I had that kind of proof, I would have thrown it in her face a long time ago. In that case, we'll need you to take the stand, Juror 4.
Huh?
The prosecution agrees to allow this woman to be cross-examined. Prosecutor Von Zeeks.
Me? Testify?
Juror 4, you came here today to watch from the juror's box. The truth that even the witness doesn't know will be extracted from her testimony about that miraculous moment. So you had better put your heart and soul into this testimony. The court will certainly be able to find the facts in it. Isn't that right, you two? As you wish. Yeah. That's precisely what I intended. What's going on here? This is the first time I felt this since arriving in this country. I stand in this court as a defense attorney. Witness, your name and profession.
Yes, my name is, Joan Gardeb. Yes, my profession is, at the moment it's juror, in addition to a few other things.
Looks like even she's lost sight of whether she's a landlady or a maid. The court requests your testimony. Is that understood?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
On the night of the attack, the events that took place in that room of the Gyakuten household. You will tell us everything honestly and without concealing anything. Isn't it about time, Joan? There's nothing to be scared of now.
Dear, have you been here all along?
This is literally the couple case. I was in that room at the time as well. I'll testify alongside you. Oh, look at them.
But dear, what about your leg?
Oh, this old thing, it's fine. I can't let you bear this pain all alone.
Dear...
You are Mr. John Gardeb, I presume. Sir, former head of the 3rd Battalion of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers. I'm going to put that down later because holy crap, that was a mouthful. I am an old soldier who has been living a quiet life since having staggered off the battlefield alive. And the night of the attack, you were under fire from your wife on the battlefield that was your own home. Is that right? Well, I guess you could say that in a manner of speaking. This is the first time since the beginning of our great British court system that a juror has taken the stand. What a truly progressive development. However, the court accepts you as its final witnesses and orders you to testify about the events occurring in your own room at the time of the attack. Yes, sir. Certainly, Your Honor. And we will do that in the next video because we are now out of time. Bless these two. See you guys then.
think that's right. Pat and I just happened to see the attack. So why would we have anything to hide?
What motive could he possibly have had to alter the crime scene? Until you can indicate that, your accusation is no proper accusation at all. Beat Officer Pat must have had a reason that he needed to tamper with the crime scene in this case. And that reason is the key to this whole case.
Naruhodo-sama, could it be that you figured it out? If your accusation of this London beat officer turns out to be false, it will cause critical damage to your position as defense attorney. Keeping that in mind, let us hear your answer.
Yes, Your Honor. The fact that Beat Officer Pat tried to hide by altering their crime scene was the reason that Beat Officer Pat tried to hide. Sorry, this text is weird. The reason why Pat tried to hide by altering the crime scene is, what is the reason? What is it? The place where the book had fallen, the place where the bouquet had fallen, the place where the victim was stabbed. Place where the victim was stabbed. Pat-san had to hide it at all cost. What in blazes?
The place where she was stabbed? What are you talking about? We've known that since the beginning. It was on the walkway along Briar Road, right? We saw it. Yes, right here. Everyone knows that.
You're right. That's what everyone thinks. But that's not actually where the victim was stabbed.
Huh? What? Just where is this trial headed?
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of DGS. Right now we are about to answer who would be the one to tamper the crime scene. And the only possible culprit besides Soseki is Patrick O'Malley. That person could only be Beat Officer Patrick O'Malley. There can be no other explanation.
What's this? This beat officer of the London police? Don't be ridiculous! Why would Pat do that? Pat is an ally of justice. He's a patrolman who strives to protect London's peace.
Lola-san. Pat-san asked you to go to the station and you left the crime. In that case, Japanese boy, your next step is to indicate. According to your claim, where did the attack really happen that night? Next to the boarding house.
That's...
On the opposite side from the crime scene, you say?
What does this mean?
Pat is being really quiet over there. That's right. The book that flew out the window of Mr. Garadev's room plummeted straight down. The bouquet you dropped at the crime scene never moved. What moved was the scene of the crime itself.
What?
It looks like you haven't heard the testimony leading up to now. These two witnesses clearly saw the moment of the attack.
That's right.
Crime scene, correct? That 15-minute gap is the only time it would have been possible for him to tamper with the crime scene.
That's a lie! Nonsense! I mean... Oh, that's right! The mustached Japanese man! He did it!
But in that case, Pat-san should have witnessed it. And with all due respect, you dropped the bouquet, Lola-sama, after the defendant had already fled the scene of the crime.
But...
So, you're done implicating the boarding house landlord couple, and now you've moved on to the beat officer of the London police, have you? However, you still lack one important thing necessary to make that accusation. You claim he altered the crime scene, but that is something that only someone who had something to hide in connection with the case would do.
That's right! That's right!